What's up, folks, and welcome back to Dyce Reacts, where we are staying in Australia tonight. Oh yeah, we are going to be checking out what they don't tell you about moving to Australia. Bear my side checks one out. We ain't going to waste no more time. We're just going to get right into it, folks. We're going to get right into it. Oh yeah.
Now, you've probably clicked on this video thinking that it's going to be all negative things about moving to Australia, and not at all. I absolutely love Australia, and while no country is perfect, this is one of the best countries I've ever experienced. I've done quite a lot of traveling throughout Europe and America and even Japan. I lived in Japan for 2 years, and Australia is by far my favorite place of them all. The first thing is that the lifestyle is lovely, and I realized that the work culture is much more laid back. It's not as hustle and grind culture as I saw in London. It was very hustle culture. Of course, everyone's different, but it's not uncommon after work for you to go to the beach or the river, if you're like me, and I live in Brisbane, so I like to go for a run along the river, and it's just lovely. The Aussies are very aware of how good the weather is here, so they're out walking their dogs, cycling, having picnics. Also, if you work a retail or hospitality job, often you get double time pay on holidays, which is really nice. In the UK, some places might still do this, but I worked for a supermarket chain. They did it when I was 16 years old, and then by the time I was 19 years old, they had completely cut that. I don't know what it's like in the corporate industry in Australia, so maybe you can help people out in the comments below. Brunch culture here is amazing. Coffee is incredible and much cheaper than the UK. I've personally found people seem happier and friendlier. People stop for a chat. Aussies have a great sense of humor, and they love a bit of sarcasm and irony, which is great because so do we Brits. I've seen my productivity, creative inspiration, overall happiness and mental well-being completely skyrocket since moving here. People will tell you, oh, Australia's not going to solve all your problems. And while it's true, it's going to solve quite a few of them if you're really unhappy in somewhere like the UK.
But to be fair, nowhere can solve all your problems. There's pros and cons. You just have to get the more pros than cons situation. The ones that's really important to you, the things that actually do matter. You just have to find them in a country that you love. As long as it's balanced the way that you want it to go, then obviously you have found a better situation. There's nowhere on earth that is just a utopia. That doesn't exist.
It's going to solve quite a few of them if you're really unhappy in somewhere like the UK. So my best advice to you would be to embrace this lovely laid-back culture here in Australia when you come here. It's almost like Australia is here to support you to achieve your goals, but without stressing yourself out. That's how I feel. Number 2 is the coffee and food scene will blow your mind. Once you start drinking the coffee here, once you start eating the food here, you'll realize how not very good our coffee and some of our food is in the UK. Look, I'm not going to slander UK food like some people do. One of the main reasons why I love British food is because we're so multicultural. Our national dish, I believe, is the chicken tikka masala, which is awesome. But coffee here is infinitely better. As soon as you have a coffee here, you will not be going to Costa or Starbucks again, I guarantee you. As soon as you go out for brunch here and you have their avocado on toast, it's just like completely elevated depending on which cafe you go. Everything that you put in your mouth in Australia tastes better. That sounded weird. Number 3 is the cost of living is higher than you think. I've found, personally, the cost of living to be cheaper than where I was living in the UK. And I still stand by that. But there are some cities here, especially if you're young and you want to go to the cool cities like Sydney and Melbourne, that are going to be very expensive. I personally find eating out to be cheaper, but my rent is almost the same, just slightly less than what I was paying in London, and Brisbane isn't in as high of a demand as London is. So there's a few things that are going to surprise you when it comes to cost of living. I found that when I buy things on Amazon, they're often much cheaper when I've bought actually the exact same thing as in the UK. Number 4 is it's very difficult to get permanent residency here. Now, never say never, but there are certain reasons why you might not be eligible to get permanent residency here, And if you are eligible to get permanent residency here, you'll find that it will probably cost you quite a lot of money, and you'll also have to do a lot of paperwork. I know because I've been there. To add to this, you'll probably need to save up for quite a while back in your home country, and even if you're visiting for a holiday, you need to make sure that you've got a tourist visa, an eligible tourist visa, and you need to make sure you apply for that before you even get on the plane here, because they're not going to let you pass border control if you don't have an eligible visa. Side note, make sure when you're filling out the card they give you on the plane, do you have like any fruit or veg or medications and stuff that you haven't declared? Just be completely honest. That's what they say. Just be completely honest, because if they catch you, right, taking something in that you shouldn't, you're gonna get in a lot of trouble. And trust me, you don't want to get on the wrong side of them, because they can put restrictions on when you can enter the country again, and you definitely don't want to get a permanent ban. So you want to be respectful. So you want to go onto the Australian government website. It's super easy to find on Google, and take a look at all the different visa options they have. Take a look at the ones that you're eligible for, and then you can start thinking about saving up for the money and doing the paperwork. Hopefully you don't have too much like I did.
Yeah, that's some great information on the visa thing. This is the first video that I've seen that spoke about that in any kind of degree. This is the first one, so I'm really thankful for that information, because I will probably get a surprise. Not probably, I will get a surprise when I try to land in Australia. It's really good information, man.
Number 5 is you will get homesick even if you think you don't. It's really easy to romanticize the move, but moving has its difficulties. It is not always smooth sailing. Now, there's a very big time difference between Australia and the UK, so I have to be really intentional with when I call and keep in touch with my family, because often when I'm waking up in the morning, they're going to bed, and then when I'm winding down for the evening, often they're getting up. And basically, I've put a system in place to remind myself on my Google Calendar, and I would highly recommend communicating this to your friends and family that you want to keep in touch with. Be like, oh, maybe every Friday evening we could have a call together.
True.
It might seem a bit OTT, but it would really help, because it guarantees you have that time with them. And honestly, I found that as long as I get in 1 or 2 decent sized video calls with my friends and family, I'm not as homesick, and it's much easier to live here without them being here. So definitely thank yourself for it, and they'll appreciate it too. Number 6 is the job market works differently here. And what I would say from things I've heard from friends and family here in Australia is that the qualifications that you have back in your home country, they might not necessarily work for the job you're applying for in Australia. Even if it's the exact same job, you might need to go to some sort of educational facility here to do a bit of retraining, so on paper you look right. Now, I would like to think that a lot of employers are more open-minded than that, and they can look at your resume and go, oh, they've basically got the equivalent, but some aren't going to be as lenient and understanding. But if I was in your shoes, what I would probably do is start setting up some sort of online business that you can run from anywhere in the world. That's why I decided to go down the route of freelance video editing, and it's meant that I haven't had to dive headfirst into the job market here in Australia, which can often be quite stressful. But one thing I would say, just double check on your visa, and maybe with a professional if you are legally able to do this, because you don't want to be doing anything that goes against your visa conditions. Number 7 is that making friends here takes more effort than you'd expect. But the stereotype with Australians is that they're super friendly, they're super laid back, and while this is true, it doesn't mean it's going to be necessarily smooth sailing at making lots of friends. In order to actually make a real connection with some mates here, you need to put yourself out there. You need to start going to communities and venues where the sorts of people you want to become friends with are hanging out. Now, the good news is this is really easy to do, because Australia is a really social country. There's lots of really cool venues like surf clubs and sports clubs. Even some of the pubs and bars here can be a really cool place to make new friends. And if you go to one of the popular cities here, there's going to be so many events and clubs specifically for you, whatever it is that you're going to absolutely thrive in, and it shouldn't be a problem making friends. Number 8 is that the weather extremes are a real adjustment, especially if you're British like me. You're going to find it Queensland, it's going to be very, very hot, and even Melbourne and Sydney can also get very hot in the summer. This heat isn't just whinge-worthy hot, it's dangerously hot. Skin cancer is a super common thing in Australia because the UV index is so high, so much. So the funny thing about Australia is that when they do weather, they do it in extremes. So you need to do your research on how to handle these weathers. You need to pack properly, and you need to prepare yourself, and you need to wear your sunscreen. There are lots of Aussies that will tell you you don't need sunscreen and you don't need SPF 50. And I might be a Brit, but I've done hours and hours of research into dermatology and sun safety, and trust me.
What was it again? Slip, slide, slop, slap. Slip, slide, slop, slap. I know I'm missing something, maybe like 2 or 3 things. What is it, guys? Remind me in the comments. I'm trying to remember. Damn.
If it's not SPF 50, you shouldn't be leaving the house. You need SPF 50. I see so many of my older Aussie relatives here getting skin cancer, getting chunks of their actual body cut out, and it's painful and it's horrible and it doesn't look good. So trust me, wear SPF 50. And number 9 is that the healthcare is better and worse here. Now let's start with the negative first. They have a system here called Medicare. Aussies, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Medicare below. So when I go see my GP and have an appointment, I will pay at the front desk $80 for the appointment, and then I will get a rebate, which is about $45. That was a massive surprise to me as a British person coming from a free healthcare system. Look, if you make a decent salary, it's not going to affect you. You know, you're not going to really care that much about paying for your doctor's appointments. But let's talk about the positive now, and that's, I found personally in my suburb of Brisbane that it's super easy for me to get a doctor's appointment same day. And look, I know there's a lot of doctor clinics dotted around Australia and the UK where you can't do that, and you're waiting absolutely weeks or even months to get a doctor's appointment. And that absolutely sucks. I've been in that position myself when I was living in a tiny coastal town back in the UK to study my degree. But in my personal experience in Brisbane, I found it to be super easy to not only sign up for a new GP, but to also get an appointment. So that's a pretty cool thing. Now look, Australia isn't perfect, nowhere is, but if you know what to expect, it could be one of the best decisions of your life. Apart from the odd negative, I only have good things to say about this place, and I do not regret, not even for a single second, moving here. Apart from marrying my wife, it's been the best decision I've ever made.
Yes, this was informative. I want to ask a question. You guys gotta hit me up in the comments. How difficult is it to obtain residency in Australia? He gave some pointers, but he never really went in detail to us how difficult, meaning like time process. Does it take an average of 2 to 3 years? He said it was expensive, which I don't doubt him at all. But even if you have the money, how long you have to wait in terms of to get residency? Is it like, give me an average time of I would assume it's years, even if you have the money, even if you have accumulated all the right documents that is needed. Is it a case where you have to leave the country when the process is taking place and then come back when it's done? Or can you stay in Australia while the process is done? Because I know in certain countries you may have to leave the country and then come back when it's ready. You're gonna get a call as to when it's ready to come and finish the process. Now, he said about the rebate and doctor's appointment, and when he said worse and better, I was shocked because no one ever said anything bad about the healthcare system in Australia per se, because it's so good in Australia that when he said worse, I thought he was going to say something really, really bad. But he's just basically trying to pull out something bad from a straw hat, because he just doesn't want to. He wants a balance. He wants the audience or the viewers to get a balanced idea of what he's talking about, not just everything good and nothing bad. So he's making it more realistic, but it's not really a bad thing per se what he said there, because he can barely find anything that's negative about the health care system in Australia. But when I saw the title, it really threw me off, because that's the first time I'm seeing someone put a video together saying something negative about the healthcare system. It's not that negative, it's just pointing out the fact that some people don't really want to point out certain negatives about not just Australia, but a country they're talking about, because they're afraid of the backlash in the comments. Definitely, he was just trying to showcase how everything is not peaches and cream in a country. So he's being more realistic. His approach is more realistic, and I like it. But he's just pulling it from a straw hat, basically. Can't get a utopia. Nowhere in the world is a utopia. You're gonna get issues anywhere you go. You just have to find a place where the pros outweigh the cons, and those pros are basically the main things that you're looking for in a country. So as long as you have that, it's basically your utopia. And nothing is fixed. As time, things can change in a country years down the line, and suddenly your pros are not there. So from that point on, you may complain about it, or you may search for a different country entirely. And like I said, Australia is an island. That's not an island. Perfect blend of life, fast pace and slow pace. You could get best of both worlds, and the functionality of things that's important for a country to run, it's working. Everything is working, and that's the great thing about Australia. But this was very informative, I must say. The visa thing, I really learned something new. You guys got to give me more information about that, and join my membership. I got plenty of members only videos there waiting for you guys. Plus I'm working on some new stuff for only members as well. It's going to be so exciting, guys. You just got to join and stay for the ride. You're not going to be disappointed, I bet. If you want to see that long shot I that I do, hit me up on Dyce Reacts, where I do music reactions. This is where I'm going to be making my exit. Until next time, peace out.